Hawaksham. That means good evening in Lidepla, Lingwa de Planeta. I'd like to welcome you to the second video in the series of lessons that I'm going to be doing. Also, quickly, saluton al miaj amikoj esperantistoj kiu loĝas in Monterrey, Mexico. Saluton Ocho, saluton Charlie, saluton Jorge. I promised that I would give them a little bit of a greeting here. And now let's get into the lesson. The first thing I want to mention is a quick review of what we did in the first lesson. I gave you background to the language, how it came about, and some of the guiding principles of it. And we also talked about pronouns and the verb shuo. So let's take a look at the pronouns.
Me, you, lu, ella, ta, it, nu, you or yuoli, li, oni.
And then of course you remember that the verb shuo meant to speak or to talk. And we talked about how you could use that and some of the features of the verb system. In today's lesson, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into the verb system. Also talk a little bit about how do you ask questions and introduce a few nouns. In passing, in the first lesson, I used the word quo. Quo means what? I had the question, quo es Lidepla? Okay, so the word quo is a very useful word when you're asking about something. Another use of the word quo is in the compound word quo worda. It means literally what word. And that is the term used in Lidepla for nouns. Because when you think about it, nouns are words that answer the question, what is it? So, quo worda, what word? We also, in passing, introduced the word es, which is. And it means, in English, am, are, is, that kind of thing. All the different versions of the verb to be. Of course, it can also mean was, were, will be, and all of those variations because of what we said about how the tense is sort of inferred from context, although of course there are ways to mark the past or the future or ongoing or completed, that kind of thing. So now combining those together, we can ask the question, quo es it? What is it? Quo es it? And the answer could be many different things. The answer to quo es it could be es kitaba. It's a book. The answer to the question could be, quo es it? Could be, it es kalam, which means pen or pencil. Now something you may have noticed there is that you can say it es and then fill in the blank, it is, whatever. But you can also just leave out the word it. Okay, this is similar to languages like Spanish, Portuguese, where you can drop the subject. You can just say es carro, es perro, it's a car, it's a dog. So it works the same way because normally, if we're pointing at something and asking what is it, we know what we're talking about, so we don't have to say it. All right. So now we can start talking about things a little bit. We can also talk about things that we have. Okay, the word for have is hev, H-E-V. And so now you can say things like may have, kalam. May have, kitaba. You can talk about may have diska. Okay. May have computer. I have a disk, I have a computer. Remember, of course, that the word by itself could be singular plural, so I could say something like may have kataba, may have dua kataba, I have 2 books. You could say may have katabas. Okay. And of course you can say things like you have, lu have, you have, he has, ella have, she has, nu have, we have. Pretty easy. Another little word that's very, very useful is the word for and it's e. Mehev, kitaba, e, kalam. Of course, you don't always know about things. Sometimes you have to gather information, right? So we've seen one way to make questions. That's with a question word like quo. And we'll learn other question words like the words for who, where, when, in further lessons. But another kind of question that's very common are yes and no questions. The easiest way to make a yes or no question in Lidepla is to throw the little word ob at the beginning. It's just a marker that shows, hey, there's a question coming up here. I want to know if what I'm about to say is true or not. Okay. So you could ask somebody a question. Ob you have kitaba? Do you have a book? Ob you have kalam? Do you have a pen? You can talk about a third person. You could say Ob ta have kalam? Remember, ta is he or she. Does he or she have a pen? All right. Ob nu have kitabas? Do we have books? Now, if you're going to ask questions that are yes or no questions, it's very helpful to know how to say yes or no. Yes is simply ja, and no is no. And then you can elaborate that. You could say, let's say somebody asks you, Ob you have kalam? They're asking, do you have a pen? Do you have a pencil? You know, maybe they need to borrow one for a test or something like that. And you could say, let's say, yeah, me have kalam. Yeah, yes, I have a pen. But they might also have to say, no, I don't. The no is no. To say I don't have, what you do to negate any verb in Lidepla is you throw in the little word bu, which comes from Mandarin, and it comes right before the verb. So you'd say, I don't have a pen. Me bu have kalam. Non me bu have kalam. No, I don't have a pen. Alright. We'll be able to do more with that kind of thing later on. But now you know how to make basic yes or no questions. There are other things that we'll talk about in further lessons about if you're asking specifically about the parts of a statement. You know, the kind of thing that we do in English when we say, are you going Monday? You know, if you say something like that, you're really questioning which day. You know, you have classes when? You know, you can emphasize certain things. Okay, but now we should get into some more verbs besides just shuo, speak, s, is, and have. When you think about verbs, you're generally thinking about action. We're thinking about doing things. Of course, there are also verbs that talk about states of being. Have is kind of like that. It's a word that talks about a condition. But in general, with verbs, we think about action. We think about doing. And the word for do, to do something, is zuo. Zuo, which comes from Mandarin. Now, earlier we saw that nouns are called guo worda. What words? Answering the question, what is it? Well, the Lidepla term for verbs, especially verbs of action, is zuo worda, doing words. Okay. Now, a very important thing to talk about preferences. After all, language is about expressing yourself. It's about communicating. And part of that is expressing what your desires are. What do you want? The verb for want is yao, also from Chinese. Yao. Me yao, I want. Me yao it, I want it. You can also throw in things like me bu yao it, I don't want it. Okay. And combining that with ob, you can ask people about things. You can say things like, ob you yao it? Do you want it? Ob you bu yao it? Do you not want it? Okay. Related to that is whether you like something or not. They're kind of the same, but there's a shade of distinction there, usually, whether it's a very strong desire or more of a preference. The word for to like something, to prefer something, is pri. Okay, so you can say things like, me pri it, I like it. Maybe you're talking about a meal that you just had. Me pri it. Me bu pri it, I don't like it. Okay. So now you can really start to get into more of a conversation. Somebody could ask you something like, ob you bu yao it? Do you not want it? And you could answer, no. Me bu yao it, I don't want it. Me bu pri it, I don't like it. Okay. You could talk about a book. And you could say, me bu pri kitab, I don't like the book. Okay. I'll talk about how to say this book in the next lesson, or that book. You could ask questions like, quo you yao, what do you want? Or quo you pri, what do you like? Okay. Quo you yao, what do you want? Kitaba o kalam. See what I just did there? I threw in the word o, which means or. What do you want? Book or pen? Okay. Another very useful verb is to eat. Eating is a fundamental activity. Pretty much everybody's a fan of food. Okay? The verb for eat is chi. Again, that comes from Chinese. So you could say things like, me chi, I'm eating. Nu chi, we're eating. Li chi, they're eating. That kind of thing. You can also get into what we call serial verb construction, which is a fancy word for stringing verbs together, one after the other. We do this all the time in English without really thinking about it. An example would be something like, I want to eat. In Lidepla, that would be, me yao chi, I want eat. Notice how easy it is? You don't have to worry about changing any of the forms there. Or, me pri chi, I like to eat. Okay. You can throw that in with questions too. Ob you yao chi? Do you want to eat? Okay. And then somebody might say, yeah, okay, let's eat. All right. Or they might say no. Maybe they just ate. Okay. So when you're doing one verb after the other, it pretty much follows what you would normally do in English. You just put the verbs one after the other. You don't have to worry about changing the forms or anything like that. Okay. One more verb, and maybe a couple of examples, and then we'll wrap it up for now. Okay. And that is the verb for to read, or reading, or reads, and it's lecti. And that you can remember, think of lecture, okay, or lexicon, in case it's got nice Greek, or sorry, Latin roots there. So lecti. So me lecti. Me lecti kitabos. Me pre lecti kitabos. I like to read books. So there's a couple of examples for that. We'll go into more verbs like that in further lessons. So just to wrap things up, in this lesson we've talked about basic questions. Talked about the question word quo. We talked about how to say is, it is, or I am, or you are, or they are. Okay. We've introduced a couple of Lidepla grammatical terms. We talked about quo verda and zuo verda. And we've introduced a few really helpful verbs. We talked about how to say want, yao. We talked about like, I like something. Ri. We've introduced chi, to eat. We've introduced lekti, to read. We've thrown in a couple of very useful connecting words, and, and or, o. And we've talked about how to form yes or no questions. Throw the o in front. And also how to answer them. Yeah, or no. So I look forward to seeing you next time. Please leave comments. If anything was not clear, let me know, and I will clear it up in future episodes. Thank you very much. Swasti.